We are back with more Wild Talk. I'm your host, Steve Hamilton.
We are back at it for another social segment on Wild Talk.
Wild Talk is brought to you by Aventura, Timber Stoves, Hornady, and Wild TV Plus.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Wild Talk. Today, Steve and I are joined by Travis Adair. He is a bear master. He has been hunting bears for a long time, has plenty of kills up his belt, and we couldn't have picked a more perfect person for our bear episode. Travis, thank you so much for joining us tonight. It is a pleasure to have you.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. We're glad to. So let's jump right into it. Who are you? Where are you from? What do you do?
Yeah, so I grew up in Arizona and lived in Utah half my life and lived in Alaska for a bit, long time ago. And I'm a lawyer, but I'm not too proud of that fact. So I go to work just like this. I work remotely and have, pretty cushy setup now. So, but allows me to hunt and spend a lot of time with my family. And so, yeah.
That's awesome. So where did your love for bears start? Did you grow up bear hunting or how did you get introduced with it?
Probably should credit Jim Shockey more than anyone. So Sunday afternoons was Jim Shockey on outdoor television. And so grew up fascinated by bears and the idea of hunting bears. And so after high school, I decided I needed some adventure. So I packed up everything I owned and drove to Alaska. I didn't even have a job lined up or a place to live, but had just a kid with some dreams. And so I got a job and got established there. And so I could hunt and fish and experience Alaska, something I dreamt about since I was, probably 10 years old. So, and that's where I eventually got into bear hunting.
You couldn't have picked a better mentor role model than Jim. Jim's an absolute rock star. But what really got me at the beginning there is you said you're a lawyer.
Right.
That is when you think of a hunter, that's generally not what society kind of typecast as a lawyer. So I absolutely love that with talking to a bunch of our different guests that we've had on over our time as hosts here is that no two of them fit the criteria or the mold or the stereotypes that you traditionally see thrown across media.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't think of myself as, my career defining me. It's more, I consider myself a family man and outdoorsman. And my career just pays the bills. And I didn't get into it to get rich. I could have sold out and stayed in the city and, made more money, but I set up we live in a small town and where we want to be and where I can work remotely and have a better lifestyle. So
you say a small town, whereabouts?
Cedar City in southern Utah. So small-ish. I mean, we're about 30 to 40,000. So, and both my wife and I both went to college here, so we have a lot of good memories here and love the community. And so this is where we wanted to come back to if we ever got out of the city, and we did about 5 years ago.
So what city did you come from? Like we
were in the Phoenix area.
Okay.
I grew up in the Phoenix area, and that's where I went to law school and worked my first 6 years as an attorney there. And bear hunting had to take a back seat for a few years, but it was it always occupied my mind, and we came back with some vengeance. So
You're a bear hunter, and just my perceived notions when you say bear hunting, Phoenix, Arizona isn't somewhere I would expect to think of as black bears. Is there black bear hunting there?
there are. I've bear hunted in Arizona. It's really some unique hunting actually. In the fall, the bears will come out of the mountains into the lower elevation high desert. They gorge on prickly pear cactus fruit. It's super sweet, super high calorie, and so that's really unique. But that's an August hunt. It'll be 110 degrees and rattlesnake infested, and yeah. In fact, one year with my cousin, we were predator calling and called in a giant, probably the biggest black bear I've seen in my life, actually. And it winded us. The wind was swirly and it put its nose to the air. My cousin was in position to try to get a shot and he couldn't get shot off. But it was seeing that thing run up the ridge. It was a giant cinnamon color phase, probably 500-pound black bear. It was a giant. So, in fact, Arizona, Boone has produced a lot of the top Boone and Crockett bears in the western United States. So it produces big bears. They live in nasty country, so they can grow old and they don't get hunted a whole lot. So
Wow, that is
yeah.
definitely not where I thought this conversation was going to
No,
go.
me either. That surprises me so much. I would never have thought to hear that. So, is there any bear baiting where you live right now in Utah? Do you ever do that down there?
There actually, so Utah doesn't issue a whole lot of bear tags. There's not super high density of bears in Utah, but actually so it took 13 years, but this spring I drew a limited entry summer tag, which is the only hunt you can bait on. So it's extremely limited, and yeah, we're really excited about that. So it'll be my first time baiting bears in Utah, and I've lived here half my life.
Well,
So,
congratulations.
and
That's awesome.
yeah, I think my 8-year-old boy is excited. It'll be for his first bear hunt with me and baiting with me, and so we're stoked. I hunt Idaho most years, and some areas of Idaho are 2 bear units. So yeah, that's where I've done all of my DIY bear baiting has been in Idaho.
Yeah, here in BC, we can't bait.
Yeah.
Alberta, you can, and I've told Kaylee and her hubby that I want to come out there and hunt over a bait pile. So for somebody like myself who's got zero clue on how to bait or what's involved, how do you initially find a good area that is setting up for a bait? What do you look for?
So, at least in the western, Rocky Mountains, I mean, we're steep terrain, and so I look for dense, thick canyons and look for with water, and that's if there's water nearby, there's going to be some kind of food source that bears know how to find, right? And so that's where I look, and then of course just scouting those areas, looking for tracks, looking for sign, looking for overturned rocks. Something bears do a lot; they eat the grubs and bugs, and so that's really what we look for. We kind of look for the steepest, thickest, darkest, nastiest canyons we can find, and that's what usually produces the most bears and the biggest bears, the oldest bears. So
Here's a question for the both of you, again from somebody who has no idea. Do you find that one bait works better than another? Meaning, like a savory bait, like Kaylee just mentioned, popcorn, again, something I would have no idea, versus a sugary maple syrup type. Is there a preference or something that works better?
it's so the misconception, or kind of there's a stigma, I should say, kind of in a lot of circles about the idea of bear baiting, and the idea that that people think, oh, you just throw some food out and bears are going to come run into it and shoot up a bunch of bears, and it couldn't be further from the truth. These are first of all, these are animals that have no problem finding food. So it's something that entices them, and also it's got to be something that really, with baiting, I consider it feeding bears. You entice them in, but you need to give them something nutritional. Otherwise, they can only eat so much of it, and they will leave.
They move on. You need to
They'll
maintain your bait too. That's super important.
Exactly. So probably, in most Canadian outfitters that just based on, everything I've gathered and also hunts I've done in Idaho, primarily use trail mix, that's nuts in it. So it gives them protein. It's like simulating a natural food source, but also mixed with sweets to draw them in, and use a lot of sweet smells and things to add, and then mixing sweets in with grease and things that those bears are going to trail through the woods, and other bears will pick up that scent and follow the trail right back to the bait. And so enticing a large mature boar into a bait during legal shooting hours. Also, bears are inherently nocturnal. So that's the thing. Doing that in legal shooting hours is one of the hardest things. And also, bear baiting is so many areas that bears live, and some of the best habitat is not conducive to spot and stock hunting. I love spot and stock hunting. I've grown up my whole life spot and stock hunting. That's how we do it in Alaska and my grizzly hunts. And but if there weren't bear baiting, not enough bears would get harvested. From a management perspective, there's so many areas without baiting, none would get harvested, and that absolutely impacts ungulate populations.
So let's pivot a little bit away from the black bear stuff, because I know Kaylee's got a question. She wants to ask something about a do-it-yourself Alaskan hunt.
Yes.
Yeah.
You had touched on grizzlies, and I know from your Instagram you have shot a beautiful grizzly, and I would love to get into that story.
Absolutely. So, yeah, it really takes me back to what got me into bear hunting when I lived in Alaska. And so my first bear hunt, I had a grizzly tag and a black bear tag as an Alaskan resident. And it was a fall hunt. We were over salmon streams. My first bear was a black bear that I killed in the alders at about 6 yards. So that was pretty hair-raising. And that morning, actually, we had a bear trying to get in our tent. About a 6-foot black bear was literally trying to get in our tent. That alarm bell went off, and so I'm scrambling for the gun, and it disappears in the brush. And so I was already, man, this was the greatest thing I'd ever experienced in my life. I mean, was as a young man that dreamt of this for over 10 years, and so by then I was already hooked. Like, I was a bear hunter for life before I'd even killed one. And so then had the experience with the black bear and the alders, and then so a couple hours after that, we just finished skinning and deboning that bear, and we spotted a grizzly downriver, and it was probably the same bear we had seen the evening before briefly. It was like mid-afternoon. We were fishing, and we looked downriver, and this bear is just poked out of the alders looking at us 200 yards downstream. And as soon as we reached for the gun or started to move, and so the next evening, this may have been the same bear, poked out and had its nose to the water, was waiting to catch a sockeye. And so I was able to slip into position and lay prone at about 150 yards and shot that bear and double lunged it, and it launched it into the river. And so my buddy and I were celebrating. We're just, elated. And instantly you just hear this, and that bear torpedoed out of the river into the alders. And what, it instantly turned to a little bit of horror. And it's starting to get dark. It's August in Alaska, so it doesn't, there's about 3 hours of darkness, maybe less at that time, in that area at that time of year. But so we literally thought we were like, and a grizzly does not, they don't death moan like a black bear. So the sounds I was hearing, I mean, it was just electric. Like that's every hair on my body stood up. Like it was insane. And so then finally the bear had expired. I was confident it expired, and we knew it was going to rain a lot that night, and so we couldn't wait till the next morning. And I didn't know how far it had made it back in the brush, and so we turned on our headlamps and started crawling through the alders to go, recover this grizzly, and it made it about 60 yards into the alders, double lung shot. It's in I was shooting 180 grain AccuBond that really just opened it up. The fact that bear made it out of the river and into there, it was dead feet, and they're just totally different. So that was my first bear hunting experience.
Travis, from all of us at Wild Talk, especially Kaylee and myself, we'd like to thank you for joining us tonight.
Absolutely, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Welcome back to Wild Talk. On this segment, we would love to introduce to you our new sponsor, Adventura Self-Heating. Welcome. Thank you guys so much. James and Ignacio, it is a pleasure to have you sponsor us on Wild Talk.
Our pleasure to be here. Thank you.
Yes, thank you very much. Glad to be here.
Yes, we're so glad to have you. To start off this segment, we would love to introduce how you got your inspiration.
Well, in fact, the idea came from an Spanish engineer because our factory is based in a very well-known coffee region in Spain. So it was like 14 years ago he came with this idea, and then it was initially developed in a garage, like a startup, no? But then the project started growing, having different investments, until it was finally 2017 when the 42 Degrees company, our company, took that project and that idea and brought it to a higher level, no? And then we came with the brand Aventura a couple of years ago, and into Canada early last year with this new brand and the range of coffee and soups, because the Aventura brand gives immediately the idea of what of all the activities that you do in wild TV, no? Hunting, fishing, camping, trekking, and so on. No?
What makes these products so special? What sets them apart?
Well, I think from Arctic Beverages perspective, I think how we really fell in love with this product was just the great fit it had with Canada, and the fact that people want to be outdoors. Predominantly, a big portion of our business is done in the north, and very vibrant fishing and hunting and camping. So just the fit for Canada was something that we were really passionate about, and we're very excited to have it in our portfolio.
Oh, it's the absolute perfect market for things like this. So, do you have any customer testimonials that showcase the success of these drinks and these soups?
Yeah, we have some great testimonials. One that comes to mind is actually a TikTok video that was done early on, where it was a family actually camping, and the family consisted of a husband and a wife and a very young daughter. He actually opens a can of Aventura coffee, and then he drinks it, and he says, "Oh, this is our great product." That was definitely one of our early testimonials, and then we've been lucky enough to have the product in Cabela's for over 6 months, and we're getting a lot of feedback from consumers that are buying the product at Cabela's, just how convenient and how such a great fit it is for activities such as ice fishing. We hear bear hunting because you're up in a stand for 14 hours. So hearing a lot of the different applications for the product has been exciting for us.
Those are all amazing testimonials. Do you have any plans for future enhancements or any future new products that you're coming out with?
Yeah, absolutely. We are. Well, today we have a range of six beverages of coffee, chocolate, and tea, the chai latte tea. And then we came to Canada with four soups: tomato, spicy tomato, chicken, and beef. And now we are coming with curry chicken and vegetables.
That's amazing. That leads us into my next question. What is your personal favorite?
Well, in my case, of course, I know the product and I have access to all flavors every day very easily. And so for me, it depends on the day of the time, on the time of the day. Sorry, it's like early in the morning. I have my black coffee. I used to have it with sugar, but now I'm turning into a no sugar. So I'm now starting to do the no sugar. Then I have my hot chocolate before going to sleep. Now we are in a hotel, so I always have my hot chocolate with me before going to sleep. And then the tomato soup or the chicken soup is at lunchtime. It's always nice to have it with a sandwich when you are driving and you stop in a gas station. And so for me, it depends on the time of the day.
All right, you guys said self-heating, and that's got my attention. So we're going to throw to a little clip here to see how it works.
So aside from Cabela's, which you mentioned, where can I find these products?
We have them in Canadian Tire, select Canadian Tires across Canada. We also have it in INS Markets, which is a convenience store chain across Canada, and then we have many independents throughout Western Canada at this point. Some of those independent accounts would be hunting and fishing stores that aren't Cabela's. So outdoor car washes is another one where people are washing their car and then traveling.
And we can find this a lot of places already, and it's expanding. Where are you looking to expand these into other markets?
Well, into other markets outside Canada, actually, our key markets today are Spain, Germany, United Kingdom, Norway. We also have some sales. Like I said, the brand is quite new, so we are placing in other European countries. But our next markets is the whole Arabic world, the GCC, and we have a big project there with some recipes adapted to their taste, because we are developing some new recipes for their preferences. And then this year we are also starting Australia, which is similar to Canada in terms of outdoor and long distances, as you know, and also South Africa.
Thanks, guys, for joining us on Wild Talk, and especially thanks for your support of the show.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you for having us. Appreciate it.
Yo, everybody, I'm Kate from Wild TV, back at it with another social segment here on Wild Talk. It's Bear Week. We want to stay on par, so the next videos we're going to show you are some very funny or very scary bear encounters. Let's check them out.
I would just like chill. It's a black bear.
Oh, that's a little bit too close for comfort, eh? Oh man, I remember seeing this when this one first went viral. Buckle up. She's chilling. She's having a time. She's in the zone. Wait for it. Oh. Always stay very aware of your surroundings, friends. Oh, hello. Who do we have here? Manners, dude. Doorbell. God. What do we got? Oh, I think that security guard needs a raise. Getting wild in Aspen, I tell you. All right, we've done some scary encounters. Let's get funny. Let's get silly. Let's get crazy. Oh, buddy. Somebody's going full send on that play set. All right, he's in. Oh, he wants more. Nice. Nailed it.
Get out of here, man! Go somewhere else. You're not welcome here.
Interesting. I'm more of a back away, not today. When seeing a bear running after it, I wouldn't encourage that. No, leave him alone.
All right, thanks for joining us again on Wild Talk. I'm your host, Steve Hamilton. Today we're joined by Zack Hayes. You might recognize that name from the NHL.
Up ahead of Zack Hayes, has room down the wing, hits shot, he
So thanks for taking some time today, Zack, to join me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Let's dig into it. I kind of touched on NHL a little bit, so let's get into your background. Let's start where you are right now and where you're from.
Yeah, so I'm from Calgary, Alberta. I still live here in the summers, and then for my hockey career, grew up playing hockey here in Calgary with the community organization Simons Valley, and then worked my way up to quadrant hockey. So that was the Northeast North Stars or Calgary North Stars. Played there till I was about 17. And then when it would have been 15 or 14 when the WHL draft was drafted to Prince Albert Raiders, and then ended up signing with them at the end of my 16-year-old season in midget AAA or U18, whatever they call it now. And then ended up going up with them at the end of the year, spent 3 weeks with them on their playoff run, got to learn about what it's like to be in the WHL. And then it really focused my mindset on wanting to make the team and wanting to be in the WHL. Like growing up watching the Hitmen all the time, that was the goal, was to make the Western Hockey League. That was, school didn't really cross my mind, NCAA. I just wanted to play in the Western League. So then ended up playing there from 17 to 20, where in 2019 we won a WHL championship and went to the Memorial Cup in Halifax, which was probably the most fun year hockey I've ever had. And then played at 20, and then that was the COVID shortened season. We missed the last 4 games in playoffs that year. Then after that, signed an AHL contract in Henderson Silver Knights, and that's the affiliate for the Vegas Golden Knights. And then in the spring of that season, because we started in January, about 2 months into the season, ended up signing my entry-level contract with Vegas for 2 years. And then the next year was back in Henderson, played a couple games with Vegas, and then the next year started back in Henderson again, then got traded to Carolina Hurricane Systems, so ended up in Chicago with the Wolves, and then got traded again actually to the New Jersey Devils organization, so ended up in Utica, New York. And then this last season was over in Vasa, Finland. And right now, free agent, so we're going to see what happens in the fall.
Any scouts watching right now? You heard what Zack just said. Free agent. So little bit
Yeah,
of a plug right there. See what we can pull. You certainly had a busy life there in hockey, and as we talked about a little briefly before we got going here, my nephew plays hockey, and it's hard enough for me to keep track of where he is. He's in the Okanagan right now, and I can only imagine going back forth. So Finland, what was that like?
It's definitely like completely different culture. I've been over to Europe a couple times, or one other time before this, with a school trip, but never up in the Scandinavian countries, Finland, Sweden. So I had a couple ex-teammates that are Finnish, so I kind of talked with them a little bit about it. But like the culture is completely different. The hockey's a little bit different as well. Like I wouldn't say it's it's a softer league, but it's just the ice is so much bigger and the game's so much faster. There's not as much checking because it's so much harder to hit everyone because of they have so much space on the boards. Like you're trying to guide a guy into the wall, and instead of the wall being right there or the boards being right there, they have an extra 5 feet. So especially for a guy like me where I'm a little bit bigger, it was taking a little bit of getting used to the big ice and being able to know your angles and everything like that. But it's still a great league. There's a lot of unbelievable players there that could be borderline NHL guys. They just didn't either get the opportunity or they made more money in their European leagues than grinding it in the American League and trying for that chance to make it to the NHL. So over there, it's like you can make a great living. It's a lot easier schedule. It's a little bit less taxing on the body, and you get to see part of the world that you probably would. I would have never lived in Finland if it wasn't for hockey. So it was a really cool experience to be there. It made a lot of friends, was able to get out hunting and fishing quite a bit. So like that's another huge experience that I never thought I'd be able to do is go hunting in Finland.
Yeah, that's where I wanted to go with this. And you threw it right in my lap there. So let's get into the hunting in Finland. I've heard amazing things about hunting in Europe, and it's quite a different model that they use. So what did you see? What did you hunt?
So I was able to tag along on a moose hunt. This was before I had my license, but I was just able to tag along and just witness it. So what they do is they have teams. They have their area. I don't know how much land they have, but they have a team. So on the big animals like moose, or what they call elk, they call moose elk there. They basically plan a weekend and get everyone or as many people as they can. You draw coins with numbers on them, and that's where you're going to be posted up, where you get to pick where you want to sit. So then if you have like the big area, they have an idea where the moose are going to be, and then everyone's kind of posted up along, and they all got radios and GPS on their phone. And then one guy goes with the dog, or two guys go with the dogs, and they chase the moose around and wait until it runs out in front of someone, and then anyone can shoot it. That's part of the team.
That's quite different than my style of moose hunting here in British Columbia.
Oh yeah. And then another thing, and I was able to shoot one was a roe deer. I shot a roe deer doe. But that's the same thing. Like so for with the moose, you're using bigger dogs, kind of like a golden retriever body, maybe a little bit bigger. Where with the roe deer, we used shotguns and basically big hairy wiener dogs.
Okay.
Bigger, hairier wiener dogs. And same thing, they have a GPS on the collar, chases it around, and then you hope that it runs out in front of you, and there you go, you shoot it. Yeah, able to go on a whitetail hunt as well. And like they have completely different rules over there. So like I was texting my buddies, I was like, this feels so illegal, but it's not there because you can hunt 24 hours a day. You can use thermals. You can use suppressors. So it's just like completely different.
Mm-hmm. I've heard that their moose their elk population, our moose populations are incredibly well managed compared to over here, and there's a ton of them. Did you see lots?
Yeah, I think in the area around where we are, they've started to the population's dropped actually quite a bit, and that's the big thing that I like about that I was able to take away from them was they have a lot of control over their population in their area. So they'll be given 8 tags, let's say, for their group of people. And if the population's low that year, they'll be like, okay, we're only going to shoot 4 of those tags. That's what we're agreeing on. We're only shooting 4, and they usually go two bulls, 2 calves, and then they leave the cows. Or they'll be like, okay, we're going to shoot 3 bulls, 2 calves. So they kind of have a lot of control over it. But then at the same time, you also are relying on people in the other areas around you to manage their population as well. So then the entire area's population continues to stay sustainable, because for them, they're really trying to focus on their population, where there's a couple areas around them where they're just shooting all their tags. Doesn't matter. They all want meat, especially because meat's expensive right now. They're all just shooting and shooting and shooting. So their population has declined quite a bit, at least in Voss's area.
What about the fishing?
So you're in the Gulf. We were in the Gulf of Bothnia, is what it was called. So it's technically the sea, but it's brackish water. So you have fish there that are like, you have pike, you have walleye or zander, what they call them. You have perch, you have burbot, you have whitefish, I think. Then there's sea trout and a bunch of other fish. But we mostly went for pike. We went open water fishing once, and you're using hooks like, I don't know, probably 10 inches big, and you're throwing it out. You're getting a hit, or you're having a fish come up to the boat. And then you're getting a fish almost every other cast. I've never seen, and not small jackfish either. Like for pike, you're catching probably 70 centimeter pike every other cast. And then the biggest one that we caught that day was 96 centimeters and probably 15 pounds.
Holy.
And they get well bigger than that. Or perch, you'd pull we had one day where a guy pulled 100 out of 2 different holes.
Can't even fathom that sort of hunting and that sort of fishing. That's a road trip. do they need any like water boys on the bench there? So let's pivot into your shirt, Hayez Outdoors. Obviously, it's a play on the name. So how did it come about? What is it?
So it originally started back when I first signed my AHL deal in Henderson, and during that COVID time, I was just trying to think of something to do to stay busy, because you couldn't go to the gyms, you couldn't do anything really other than go to the lake and go out hunting that year, because that was one of the only years I was able to actually spend all of hunting season here. So then I was like, you know what? There's a lot of people that maybe want to follow along my journey as a professional hockey player. Someone might want to follow me for hockey, but don't want to see a dead deer or fish pictures every other day. So it's like, you know what, I'm going to create an Instagram account and just post all my stuff on there. I'll still post it on my normal account, but this is an outlet that if someone wants to see a different side of me and more often, they'll be able to follow along and do that. And then it kind of stemmed into, met a couple of guys that had a hunting TV show here in Alberta. I was like, oh, you know what, that'd be kind of cool. Make some YouTube videos, see where it goes along. Everyone's a big meat eater fan. Usually everyone that hunts and fishes usually watches meat eater, has watched an episode in their life. And that's the biggest thing too, is like, you want to be able to pass on conservation to other people that maybe have never been exposed to it. I would love to be able to go seamlessly from a hockey player into a full-time hunter and fisherman, and be able to explore the world and hunt some different animals and meet people around the world. And that was kind of the, you know, if it can blow up while I'm playing hockey and gain a following while I'm playing hockey, and then I can go seamlessly into that, that's kind of the dream. Because one of the biggest things that stuck with me was I listened to a podcast with Eric Gryba, and he said, all professional hockey players should build a brand about themselves while they're playing hockey, because once you're done playing hockey, no one cares about you, which is very true. Like, unless you're Wayne Gretzky, Connor McDavid, any of those guys, like after that, people will be like, oh yeah, I remember that name. He played the hockey, but I don't know what he's doing now. So that was kind of the biggest thing. And it also is able to, because I never went to school after hockey, like after the Western League, went straight into professional hockey. So it's something that I'm able to learn how to edit now, learn how to do a little bit of business, set up websites.
And that's so important right now. Hunting, for the longest time, has lost a lot of social acceptance. We see it everywhere. There's active movements to close down. They did it successfully here, the grizzly bear hunt. Alberta as well with the grizzly hunt, predators all the time. It makes sense to kind of separate your personal and your professional life away when you rebrand it. It's not so much hiding what you're doing, it's just putting it in front of the eyes of those that actively seek out that sort of content. You kind of touched on people that don't hunt and people that do hunt in the hockey world. So how did that experience go? Have you have conversations with guys pro players that didn't hunt that do now?
I haven't been able to really. That one's a more difficult one because of our hockey seasons always overlap. Mm-hmm. A lot of hockey players, I have quite a few conversations with old teammates and some of my best friends from hockey that are interested in it, but just don't have the time or don't have the resources to do it. But it's just kind of planting that seed in guys and getting them curious and just kind of like backing the outdoors industry a little bit and just kind of learning about it, and whether they do it down the road or not, that's up to them. But the biggest thing, like we said before, was just now they're starting to understand it. And if something crazy happens in the world and they're like, hey, like we're trying to ban hunting all in general, then you're going to have all these people that are like, you know what, like I've been following along. I don't do it personally, but I've been following along and that's not right.
Mm-hmm. What sparked that love for you? Like, how far back does it go?
Well, when I was young, I'd always go with my dad out hunting. Even when I was under the age of 12, he'd always go out for a weekend or two in November, and I'd spend time with him, and hunting was always on TV. So I kind of gained it there. And then when I was 12, got my hunting license and was able to go out for the first time. And then.
So what are the similarities between hunting and hockey other than the obvious early mornings?
Like, especially archery. I noticed so much with archery. Like, I was able to harvest my first archery buck last year, and it took 4 years. And the countless blown stalks, the mess ups, the missed shots, and the biggest thing that I kind of correlate between hockey is you got to have a short-term memory. With hockey, you go out on a shift. Every shift is different. There's there's technically 11 other guys on the ice that control what's going on, and you just got to do what you can do to set yourself up to be the most successful that you can be in that situation. Where that's the same thing in hunting. You're going after a wild animal. Like, they can do whatever they want. It's not a video game where they're like, okay, this deer's going to walk in at 9:30 and sit right here, so you know exactly where to sit. Well, now you got the wind. Now you have, maybe that buck got pushed by a coyote and now he's going to be 100 meters farther down, or you're going to be trying to sneak in on a buck and you blow it out. So it's just having that short-term memory and practicing to be successful, to be the best that you can be, shooting all the time. That's the same thing with hockey, shooting and practicing out on the backyard, stick handling pucks, shooting your bow, shooting a rifle. So I just think like that practice to try and be the best you can be to help yourself be the most successful, and then having a short-term memory and realizing that even if you make a mistake, you learn from that. And next time you go out, now you can be better because you have that experience.
I like that. The practice one kind of makes sense, but that short-term memory, I'm going to use that on my wife now. But it's a good thing. So with that, that's a huge thanks from me, Zach, for joining me today. We'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, thanks for having me again. I appreciate it.